Hey, hey, hey! Welcome back to the adventures of least popular president. Right now we're looking at economic situations. We have three regions that are doing really bad. England right there lacks investment. That should go away at some point though, because England right next door, Agnolia right next door is investing. So I would think at some point that's going to get better. Bergia down here, the economy is dog shit. And then Lorraine here, the economy is also dog shit. So if we look at the things we can do, let's start with this. Economic Investment Project. The Ministry of Economy has put forward 4 bold plans for investment projects, each aiming to solve different issues ranging from production to infrastructure. The 4 available investments are Benfai International Airport, Morna Seaport, Conrads Industrial Zone, and the Sarna Agricultural Zone. Now, I don't know if I should spend anything, because right now we have one money. If we spend it all, we're going to deficit spend, but it's an opportunity for us to boost infrastructure. And so I think I'm going to invest in the Morna Port, which would help Lauren, which is one of those 3 areas that is really hurt. So we're going to spend money on that. Maybe we'll get a news article about that. No. Sadly, we are negative money-wise. I don't like that, but it is what it is. Let's read some reports. Education privatization update. The Ministry of Education has reported that the privatization effort for education has been going well and that they are on track to meet targets. The capital received from the privatized schools and competing private investors has already shown results in the form of new schools and improved quality of education in most cities. All right, our education is getting better. EIRA bill proposed in Hulsort to combat energy inflation. The Grand National Assembly in Hulsort has drafted an Energy Inflation Reduction Act. I bet that's going to cost us money. In response to the recent surge in energy prices, the bill proposes a temporary price cap on gas prices, bilateral agreements with energy-rich countries, and the expansion of domestic energy production. This comprehensive approach is geared to mitigate the inflationary pressures of energy prices and stimulate domestic economic growth. Shit. They're gonna want money. If they didn't want money, I'd be cool with it. They're gonna want money. The sudden surge in energy prices and market instability have sparked concerns among investors and analysts about the resilience of Sordland's economy. Sordland now stands at the precipice of a severe energy inflation crisis. This heightened uncertainty has led to speculative investment, a potential decrease in foreign direct investment, and the risk of a consequential economic slump. I don't have a choice. I don't have any choices. The developments could have a domino effect on the Sordish economic policy. I don't have a choice to say no. All I can say is the market should regulate themselves. It's going to cost us money. I didn't... Whoa. Well, that's what it is. Can't do nothing about that. Let's meet about the escalating tensions in Bergia. At some point, we need to get rid of the Bergia special zone. This is causing problems. Lilius is going to be for the zone still. No, wait, no, she doesn't like the zone. Nina Morgna and Lilius Graf scheduled a meeting to discuss an ongoing legal case that required my attention. Why does it need my attention? I'm not in the court. Early in the morning, we convened in my office. Thank you for being here at this hour, Mr. President. We need to inform you about some news from Bergia. There is a court case initiated by a bludish citizen which involves a possible revision of the Constitution. Unfortunately, it has the potential to affect the whole country. I'm listening. I'll start from the beginning. As you know, after the discovery of AK-47s in separatist hideouts, there have been more than a few attacks initiated, claimed by the BFF. Due to lack of security funding, some of these otherwise avoidable attacks couldn't be stopped. This led to some increase in the tensions in Bergia. Lilius sighed. Ah! The main problem is with the security structure of Bergia. Due to the special status of the region, operations on the ground are run by local security forces that are not bound to the interior. Can I just stop you? I know. There's a special zone. Braun gets to kind of create his own rules at will. We need to get rid of that. Which means my hands are tied. Not in a sexy way. However, with the rising tensions after Operation Bear Trap, we've also been receiving more and more intelligence about some kind of a preparation by the terrorists. We can't allow the conflict in Wayland to spread to Sordland, and we know that Wayland and Sordland divisions of the BFF are in close cooperation. Alright, you have my ear, I'm listening. The increasing threat of the BFF led Governor Braun to justifiably resort to his emergency powers to curb the danger. Lilius, you don't like he has emergency powers like this, and this time you're supporting him? His discovery of militant training grounds disguised as schools was commendable, as well as his quick handling of bomb threats coming from major cities like Dyer. However, his latest policies have been questionable, especially the peaceful resettlement order. It has been met with massive anger from the majority of the Bloods in the region.
That is a massive understatement. Governor Braun has abused his powers and clearly acted against the Constitution.
Yeah, I agree.
And quite surprisingly, Ursin has managed to successfully push his case to the higher courts. He is suing Felix Braun for infringing upon the liberties of Bludish people.
Alright, so why do we have to get involved if the courts are doing their job? Shouldn't we leave that to the judicial branch?
He also raises a conflict in the Constitution and argues that the way it is written makes it open to interpretation and allows people like Braun to abuse their powers.
You know, we're working on a new constitution. What exactly does Ursin claim about the conflict in the Constitution?
As you know, the Rights and Liberties Article 7 alludes to are described in Article 100 in further detail.
No, I don't know that. You're the one in charge of... You're the court. On the court.
All citizens are, in theory, can exercise their rights described in these articles and are equally subject to law as described, and these rights cannot be suspended by the government under any circumstances other than a defensive war. Mr. Ursin claims the line, every sword is equal before the law, and Article 7 does not include other ethnicities, and thus gives the state the right to suspend or limit the rights of non-swords defined in Article 100.
Your voice is hurting my throat and my ears, woman. Why are you wasting my time with this? You're in the courts, get it settled.
Courts have repeatedly protected Governor Braun in the past, and it is true that he bets on Mr. Hawker justifying his actions through Article 7. However, there's also Article 6, which the courts could have taken into account already.
And what is the problem with Article 6?
As you know, Article 6 goes, everyone who is bound to the sword state by citizenship is a sword.
Which clarifies clearly that the Constitution does not discriminate against other ethnicities or cultures. Citizens of this country are called swords.
But did you ask Bludish people what they think? Yes, it's true that this article has protected them on a number of occasions, as a defined sword is a non-ethnic term, but it is left up to the interpretation of the courts. They could have argued that Article 6 extends the rights defined in Article 7 to all citizens of Sordland, regardless of race, but they didn't yet. They can potentially push this case to the Supreme Court.
I know what the accusations are against the governor. I don't think I need them told to me. We know that he has evicted people from their homes because they're bloods. It's a direct violation of their property rights. Who is this Urson guy?
Urson is a lawyer and brutish rights activist. He lives in Dire and has experienced the systematic racism in the region firsthand.
Why don't we just get to a solution? Like, I don't need to hear 8 hours of explanation about this.
He was evicted last month from his home in Dire on the grounds of threatening public stability and safety.
I think everybody should be on the page to know that Braun is being a dickhead.
He was also shot at by local law enforcement forces several times in the last 2 years and managed to survive. The attackers were never punished.
Alright, move along, move along. As much as the eviction seems unjust, Mr. Urson must be investigated further for his potential ties to dangerous organizations. I'd like to believe the forces wouldn't have fired at him without proper reason. You know what? I think this is the time where we need to rein in Lilius. Are you joking, Ms. Graff? You'd like to believe the police are getting out of control under your management. What's that supposed to mean? I'm not even in control of the forces that are being blamed here. Governor Braun has his own security forces. My forces were not involved in any of this. It was Bergia police. Bergia Special Zone is what happened, allowed this to happen in the first place. What is this case about? If you talk anymore, I'm just going to skip through it all. Nia stacked her papers ahead of... I'm just skipping through it. We already know this shit.
In any case, the situation might be troubling if it reaches the Supreme Court, and Mr. Hawker managed to sabotage it by altering the current interpretations. It would be disastrous for Brutish rights.
Well, what do you want me to do about it?
I would be doing my best to ensure a positive result of the case, but I am not sure if the centrists would be willing to agree with Mr. Urson.
Why would Mr. Hawker even sabotage it? The current interpretation is strictly solist. I'm sure he will follow the Constitution and charge Governor Braun for unconstitutional behavior. I'm not so sure I agree with you, Lilius. According to the foundational values of this republic, everyone who is a citizen of this country is a sword. The Constitution is clear about this and does not allow for discrimination.
Maybe Hawker is not the man you think he is, Ms. Graff. From what I've heard, his stance on the subject may not be the standard solist interpretation, but something darker. I'm afraid he'll reject the case altogether and find Governor Braun innocent. If this happens, it would make discrimination against Brutish people legal.
I don't know what we can do. What can we actually do? This is in the court's purview. It is not in our purview as the executive. This is insane. Is there anything I can do? It better be, because you assholes have wasted my time otherwise.
I'm afraid not, Mr. President. The executive has no jurisdiction over the judiciary.
Then why did you bring this to me? I could have known this all from the paper shit I already read. You guys just love to waste my time. We have an economy to fix!
And in this case, I'm afraid even Justice Edmonds and the centrists would be almost impossible to convince.
To be honest, I don't think this is a matter for administration. We must keep out from judicial affairs.
As much as I hate to say it, I somewhat agree with Lilius on this. I prefer to keep the status quo over risking a complete abolishment of rights. We still have the power to make tangible reforms.
I have no idea why we're talking about this then. I could say we shouldn't meddle in the judiciary, which is probably right. I could say you must put pressure on the system and block this case from reaching the Supreme Court. I don't think that's our place. I could say, what if we can convince the justices to agree with us, and wouldn't that give us precedent to change said articles of the Constitution? That's tempting. I could also just put peer pressure on her and say, what about your tangible reforms? Your lack of faith is disappointing. You know what? Fuck, I'm going that way. We're gonna role play it. Your lack of faith is disappointing. I must say I didn't expect that from you, Nia. What about your tangible reforms?
I'm simply stating the obvious, Mr. President. Instead of openly attacking the court, we can bring real change with our law-making powers.
Miss Morgana is right. There's something that the government can do to address the situation on the ground. It's time we push for change within the security structure of Bergia and the special status that resulted in de facto autonomy. It clearly isn't working. All right, now you're talking my language. I believe we are aligned on this matter, Mr. President.
Mr. President, you asked me to explore options regarding the revocation of the special zone at the beginning of our term. Given the current circumstances, I think it is now possible.
Yeah, alright, that's great to hear. Give me them details, baby.
The resettlement policies in Bergia and the arson case have changed the mood of the lawmakers. We can use this opportunity to push for a removal of Targan Soul's security zone decree. It is a much bigger possibility than before.
Alright, that seems good. That solves the problem long term if we can do that.
Of course, racism is rampant throughout the country, but British citizens inside of Bergia
What'd you say?
Bergia are having a much worse time than the British residents of cities like Lockhaven or Holswood. If we focus on Bergia, we can remove its special status. This alone would be a huge step for British rights. Unfortunately, as long as Governor Braun is in charge of Bergia, with the powers he has, no judicial forms would reverse the situation on the ground.
Alright, then do it. Why didn't we just cut right to this? To put it simply, we want to work on a detailed proposal to restructure. I get it! Why do you always talk to me like I'm stupid? I'm not stupid. She's just staring at me now awkwardly. We must centralize the system and abolish the local security forces. Okay, number 4, I can say, no, we want to leave Braun in charge. No, I don't see that. I could say, I don't see how local change is more important than removing the basis of discrimination of our constitution. That is tempting. I could say, are you absolutely certain that your security forces can do a better job than Bergian police? So I should either say, are you sure we can revoke the status, or we should fight the constitution stuff? I think we need to work on the special status that kills more birds with one stone. We're not going to fix everything that's broken in our constitution. Are you sure we can even revoke the special status of Bergia?
We can't be sure of anything, Mr. President. You know this better than me. But Lilius and I both believe there's potential to get more MPs behind the idea.
It is true, some members of my circle inside the party are keen on this idea. They're starting to believe Sol's policy in Bergia has already run its course.
If we play our cards right, during the process of this case, while we work on the preparation of a strong proposal for the special zone, we can gather enough support behind it. We have to try.
Why stop with Bergia? We have to eventually change Articles 6 and 7 as well.
I'm glad that we agree. Of course, we should push for that in our next amendments.
Before we get distracted, I'd like to briefly talk about the details of the proposal. Nia and I both agree that we need to abolish the special zone of Bergia, and this is the first point that the proposal will address. This would also mean taking away the special authority of the governor. This is me smashing my head on the table for something that we should have agreed upon 20 minutes ago.
I agree with removing the governor as well as his insane authority, but I don't support a complete centralization of the region. I propose that we restructure the special zone, democratize it, and acknowledge the Blutish movement.
How does that resolve anything? How do you solve any problem by dividing the region from the rest of Sordland? We've tried that already. Hold on, Lilius. I'm willing to hear Nia's proposal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Millions of Brutish people suffered over the last decade. We saw a massive uprising, terror attacks, and a governor going rogue. But these people only wanted to live in this country as equals, but they were denied that. Why don't we allow Bertians to elect their own local government? Why is Holsard so keen on prying into the lives of the Brutish people? We should replace the oppressive laws of the special zone with a democratic system that allows for proper local representation. I propose a Bertia semi-autonomous region.
I'm sorry to tell you, Ms. Morgna, but Bergia is part of Sordland, and as much as England or Holsard, you're bringing secessionists, fatigue allows lifelong quest. Here is your proposal. What's wrong with you? What's next? Secession of Bergia and the formation of an independent Brutish state? Autonomy for England? And why don't you hold a referendum for the Rums of Estord and ask them if they want to join Rumburg while you're at it? You know, Nia, I like a lot of things you stand for. We have fought very hard, and we're going to continue to fight to have the Blutes treated as equals, but giving them their own special state is not as equals. Lilius has a point. Bergia shouldn't have any restrictions or privileges compared to other regions. They should be equal to other regions. Lilius smiled. So it's decided then? I can start working on my proposal as soon as possible? Man, I hate agreeing with Lilius. Yes, it's been decided, Ms. Graff. You can get to work immediately. I am counting on you. Of course, Mr. President. Right away. I'm on it.
This is a mistake.
Please, Ms. Morgna, you've heard the President. I'll start working on the proposal immediately. It's very important to get this right, so it'll take some time. My estimate is that it will be ready sometime after the vote on your constitutional amendments. You can choose to enact it then. Thank you both for your time. Great, I'll get to work. See you later, Mr. President. They bid their farewells and left the room. I know it might not be going as far as the Bloods want, but it's definitely trying to make progress, getting rid of the special zone, making them equals. What do we got news-wise? Lockhaven Times? Gassam closes its doors. A grim day for Sordland. What? In a dark day for Sordland's economy, Gassam's declared bankruptcy. I thought they were expanding one of their branches. It began closing its branches nationwide. The repercussions of this dramatic downfall are far-reaching, impacting thousands of employees and contributing to growing uncertainty in our energy sector. As the nation grapples with this devastating blow, questions arise about the future of Sordland's energy independence. Maybe it's a good thing we didn't invest in it because we would have lost money. From the radical energy crisis, the cost of neglect. The sharp rise in energy prices and the ensuing market instability signal a looming energy crisis. It's clear that years of prioritizing profit over sustainability and relying on non-renewable... Oh, you're just talking about we should have focused on green energy. And a rising star in the United Contana? That's not good. The Vice Secretary Chairman, Iotake's influence within the United Contana is growing steadily, sparking speculation about a potential leadership reshuffle in the distant future. His successful spearheading of the Iokata plan and the transformative changes that it has incited are adding weight to these speculations. Is Iotake potentially set to supersede Malvani, the guy who's got the communist thing named after him in the next election? Dun dun dun! I don't know. What we got going on in the Codex? Cabinet news? Something about Gus? Gus has sold his shares in Gassam and departed from the company. Is that because the company went tits up? What else do we got? Former presidents? Oh, did Ewald Alfonso lose everything? Tell me he went broke. Tell me he went broke. He faded into obscurity following the bankruptcy and closure of Gassam. I'm so glad I didn't get into bed with that fucking loser. And then others? Urson? Oh, he's the one who's busy suing Braun right now. Corporations? Sadly, Gassam has gone bankrupt. Alright, and then what do we got here? Nothing economically. I thought we'd have some bad economic news here. Diplomacy-wise, though, we do have surging energy prices, and that is bad news. We spent some money to try and stabilize it. Not that I had a choice there. I guess technically it said the market's gonna market. Aye. Oh, man. Anytime I think we're starting to pull into the recession, something really bad happens. This does not bode well for the future. I hope to see you next time, friendos.